They called it a necessary cleansing. The Zorith Dominion, an empire older than humanity's first cities, descended on the colony of Meridian Prime without declaration, without negotiation, without mercy. Meridian was a jewel of human expansion. 50,000 settlers, a trade hub where freighters carried ore and food to distant stars. Its defenses were modest, its people unprepared. The Zorith fleet came like a storm of knives. Orbital bombardments rained down in streaks of plasma. Skyscrapers melted into rivers of glass. Fields of crops, carefully nurtured on alien soil, turned to ash. The colony governor's final transmission was a single scream before static devoured the signal. When the fire ended, nothing stood. Children, workers, scientists, all gone. Meridian Prime was nothing but a cratered husk. The Zorith admiral who oversaw the destruction stood on his command deck, cloaked in scales of silver, mandibles clicking with amusement. His words, broadcast to subordinates across the fleet, echoed, "Let this be a reminder. Humanity is soft. They bleed, they break, they beg. They are not fit for the stars. We cut them now, before they grow teeth." 2. The Feast of Arrogance. While Meridian's ruins still smoldered, the Zorith celebrated. In crystal halls orbiting their capital world, feasts were held. Toasts were raised to their victory. The burning of a human colony was no more than sport to them, another lesson to be recorded in their long history of domination. Their scribes inscribed the event as the Day of Cleansing, when humanity was reminded of its place. One elder of the Dominion, his spines glittering in ceremonial light, scoffed, "Humans talk of endurance, of scars. What is endurance to fire that does not stop burning? What are scars, when the flesh itself is dust?" The hall erupted in clicking laughter. Their arrogance spread like a contagion across the galaxy. Neighbors and neutral powers, hearing of Meridian's fall, whispered to one another. Some nodded in agreement. Yes, humanity had climbed too fast, too far. Others shook their heads, thinking the Zorith reckless. But one belief was universal. Humanity would not answer. Humans were too new to the stars, too fractured, too civilized to muster vengeance. The galaxy expected silence, and for a time, silence came. No broadcasts, no condemnations, no ships leaving Earth's docks. The galaxy mistook that silence for surrender. The silence before storms, but silence is not always weakness. Beneath the calm, the Terran Union stirred. In the void between stars, shipyards that had slumbered since the old wars flared back to life. Orbital rings thundered as dreadnoughts, long kept in reserve, were brought from hibernation. Humanity did not shout its rage. It built it. It forged vengeance into steel. Across colonies and homeworlds, a single phrase echoed through encrypted channels. Meridian burned still. It was not a lament. It was a vow. Veterans scarred from past wars returned to service. Engineers worked sleepless shifts, welding hulls until their hands bled. Civilians donated wealth, labor, even their bodies to the cause. The scars of humanity's history, Earth's wars, Earth's genocides, Earth's endless habit of clawing back from ruin, awakened in them. They did not forget how to fight. They never had, and so the silence was not surrender. It was thunder gathering, the first crack of thunder. The Zorith first realized their mistake when a lone cruiser limped back to Dominion space from patrol. Its crew was trembling. They reported that an entire task force, 12 ships strong, had been ambushed at the edge of the Orion Reach. Their assailants bore no flags, no transmissions, only a human voice across comms, cold and merciless. "This is for Meridian." Then came fire. Human ships, black-hulled and bristling with weapons unseen before, tore through the formation. Every Zorith vessel was reduced to slag. Only one survivor was permitted to flee. Some in the Dominion laughed, dismissing it as piracy. But others heard the crack in the silence. For the first time in millennia, the Zorith knew uncertainty. The gathering storm. The response escalated with terrifying precision. Zorith colonies on fringe worlds reported human ships appearing in orbit. Not to parley, not to threaten, but to annihilate. Orbital guns spoke in thunder, and entire military garrisons vanished overnight. Comms across the galaxy carried rumors. Human dreadnoughts that blotted out suns, troop carriers that rained soldiers like meteors, entire fleets moving without detection until it was far too late. And worse were the words whispered by survivors. "They don't fight like anyone else. They fight like something that remembers every scar. Zorith arrogance began to crumble. They had expected humans to whimper, to beg for mercy. Instead, they were watching a predator awaken. The Dominion convened an emergency council, admirals argued. Generals demanded reinforcements. Politicians urged restraint. One young officer, trembling before his superiors, dared to speak what none wished to admit. We thought we cornered them. We only reminded them of what corners feel like. 6. The Inferno. Unleashed, humanity's vengeance erupted in full. The fleets came without warning, coordinated across dozens of systems. No negotiation, no mercy, just judgment. At the Battle of Karis Belt, human dreadnoughts warped in above a Zorith mining stronghold. Their hulls gleamed like obsidian mountains, bristling with weaponry that made the void itself tremble. One command frequency was opened. The human admiral's voice was calm, almost sorrowful. Meridian still burns. We have not forgotten. Then the stars themselves seemed to shatter. Rail cannons fired projectiles the size of skyscrapers. Kinetic strikes cracked asteroid bases into fragments. Atmospheric ignitions turned defending fleets into incandescent fireballs. On another front, human ground forces descended upon Zorith garrisons. They wore exosuits like iron tombs, their visors glowing with wrath. Where Zorith expected hesitation, they found relentless advance. Soldiers scarred from Earth's endless wars moved with precision, fighting not for conquest, but retribution. World after world fell silent. Entire Zorith fleets were erased in hours, their confidence dissolved into panic. Retribution without end. The galaxy watched in terror. Where the Zorith had once mocked, they now begged allies for aid. But none came. Neighboring empires remembered their own scars from humanity's wars of survival. They had seen Earth rise from near extinction again and again. None dared intervene. Humanity became the storm itself, not merely fighting but teaching. Every strike carried a message. We endure. You do not. At the siege of Vela, billions watched as human fleets surrounded the Zorith capital system. Instead of broadcasting demands, humanity sent a single visual feed across the stars. The ruins of Meridian Prime, displayed beside the burning images of every Zorith world they had since destroyed. The implication was clear. Every scar carved into humanity would be answered 100-fold. And then, in a final act of vengeance, human forces unleashed fire upon the Dominion's homeworld. Orbital bombardments carved oceans into steam. Cities turned to rivers of molten glass. The once proud spires of the Zorith fell like broken bones. The capital burned for a week. 8. The Scars That Speak. When it was done, the galaxy fell into silence. The Zorith Dominion no longer existed. Its fleets lay shattered, its worlds abandoned, its people scattered like ash across the void. And humanity stood scarred, but unbroken. In the aftermath, the survivors of other empires whispered to one another. They remembered what they had seen. The patience of humans, endless as the void. The rage of humans, cold and merciless when awakened. The scars of humans, carried not as weakness, but as warnings, for scars tell stories. Scars remind enemies that pain endured becomes strength reborn, and the galaxy now understood the truth carved into those scars. Humanity should never be cornered. E. The whispered dread in shadowed halls and hidden chambers. The words spread like contagion. Never provoke Earth again. Urchins spoke it when human trade ships passed by. Generals muttered it while drawing their war plans. Even kings of ancient empires recited it under their breath, because they had all seen what happened when humanity was scarred, when patience was mistaken for weakness. They had seen vengeance that burned brighter than suns, storms that swallowed fleets whole, soldiers who fought as if every drop of blood carried the weight of history. They had seen why the scars of humanity are not shame, but warning, and so the galaxy trembled. For though humanity had returned to silence, every scar still glowed with memory, and every empire knew, if ever they forced Earth into the corner again, the fire would return, the storm would rise, the scars would remind them once more.